wanted to show off our newly restored baggage building, which is right next to our historic train station. This will be the future home of a bus stop, multimodal bus stop for Greyhound, Chariots, and some of our smaller east-west providers. This has been a long time coming. This was not what we'd call an asset in the old days. This was a dilapidated building that we were looking to give away or to burn down, and we were able to come up with another option and actually get it restored. It's with the help from a lot of folks, the Federal Transit Administration, State Historic Preservation Office, a private donor, Greyhound, and a little bit of rail money all went into this to restore it.
Get this lock here. Get the door, which hasn't been opened for many times in the last 50 years. All right. We walked in here months ago. This place was literally covered in bird poop, covered in dead birds. There was old Chinese food. There was stuff, from the 70s and the 80s that was just chucked in here. Big rows of old plastic seats and just piles of junk. I mean, it's like an attic that never been cleaned out over 50 years, and I would go through it and I would say, what's this, and sort of mark it and stuff, and I'd find hardware from the bathroom stall. So this is what they would have used as a bathroom. This wasn't ever it was habitated, but it wasn't ever intended for passengers. There would have been a railway express agent here, a couple helpers dealing with the heavy freight packages and what have you, but basically this was a storage facility for all of its life in this location. So this was obviously just a nicety to have as far as having a bathroom here. This was added a little bit later. You can tell by the vintage. This is probably 50s, 60s, maybe even late 40s. But that was added. But this was a utilitarian space. You can see by the way they built this bathroom up against the window. This wasn't about aesthetics. It was more about form following function. Function was primary and form came later. So this was just added in as it was necessary. Because again, if you think about it, when the trains came through here, passengers would go there. And for example, when the Dalles marching band would go to an event in Portland, all of their marching band equipment came through this office and would get weighed and charged accordingly and then put on the train. So this basically functioned as a place where all freight that came through the metro Salem area really would come through this location. So we hired a firm to come in here and basically remove all the asbestos. There was asbestos tiles in some of the rooms. We cleaned all the walls as best we can to get the lead paint off. We basically did all the remediation we could possibly do. This entire ceiling was just filled with bird poop. We're talking, hundreds of pounds of bird poop. Looking around now, you see wood that we've obviously salvaged as much as possible. We're trying to do, the feeling in preservation today is salvage as much as you can, reuse as much as you can. You can't get wood like this anymore. It also adds the patina. We want to create a sense that this station wasn't built yesterday, but it was built 130 years ago. So it's challenging to do that and meet ADA and fit that in. So a lot of what we're doing is keeping pieces of wood, pieces of the character that we can actually reapply, paint, but that character patina will still be there. The nice thing is this is redwood. This isn't cedar, this isn't fir, this is actually redwood. So S&P is based in California. They brought up all the wood from there to build this building. So all this wood is still in remarkably good shape because it's redwood. This building sat largely vacant for the last 20 years, but before that it really was the precursor to what we call UPS. A lot of the packages that came through Salem came through here. They had a station inside to weigh the packages. They had a little safe deposit where they kept the money. It really was a primary place for things coming and going for Salem, besides being next to the depot. A lot of the things you're seeing too are restoration of historic details. One of the things I have in my hand here actually is the battens. This building was built in an era when Victorian architecture was at its peak. So Victorians would never want to be seen with two joints that weren't covered in some fashion. So this batten actually covers up those two joints. It serves a functional and aesthetic purpose. You can tell it's actually not straight like a typical batten you might see. It's got a little curve here, a little shoulder here, and then a little bead through the middle. So just reflects the kind of detail you find in buildings of this era, even though it was an auxiliary baggage space, it still had the kind of detail with these brackets, a lot of which we're restoring. So one of the things that's really been challenging but also an opportunity with this project is recreating a lot of the historic features that were either in disrepair or needed to be completely refabricated. One of the more challenging aspects, quite frankly, has been taking these brackets and recreating them out of scratch. You can see the iterations of colors in the actual paint here. Southern Pacific, as we all know, was famous for its yellow, and there's the original S&P color there. Later on, you can read the green primer there. Red was a very common primer, but also later on this whole building was tied to UPS, and so brown became a fairly prominent color here. And then in this most recent iteration, it was painted white. So a lot can be told in just dissecting the alligatoring of the paint, as you can see in this wonderful bracket. And this just shows you the level of craftsmanship that had to both went into the project originally, and then also what we've had to do, explaining in large part what's taken a while to really put this building back together. Within this location since 1870, rail traffic has occurred here, right? So we had the first station in 1870, that burned in 1888. This building, along with another partner building, was built in 1888, 1889. But over time, these buildings have shifted in location and purpose and use. And it's kind of part and parcel with the railroad. The railroad's primary focus really is the rail, and buildings are kind of a functional result of that. So the fact that this building is being repurposed once again is very fitting, I think, for the long view that the rail takes of buildings, which is that they really serve a functional purpose first and then an aesthetic one second. So when this is completed, what you're going to find here is essentially a multimodal hub. And so ultimately, the beautiful thing here is we have the railroad station, which is currently serving rail traffic. We've taken Greyhound, which was looking for a home, and brought them co-located basically with Amtrak. Chariots will be running their buses through here. There will be bike lockers for folks who want to bike here and jump on the bus or jump on the train. There's going to be electric vehicle charging station for folks who choose that mode of transportation. And there'll even be car shares eventually here. So folks who want to come in here and explore Salem can come in here, rent a car at the station and drive around and bring it back. So it's going to showcase kind of this beautiful multimodalism that we're hoping to achieve. I think it's pretty amazing that this is returned, and I think people will be very happy about it.